Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from, um, what's it called? Hannah Park. I'm on a very long hike right now. I rode my bike up to the kind of the top of Atlantic Beach, and then I set out to hike over here, and I just ran into a shaved ice guy over there. You can kind of hear the sounds almost like Caribbean, like steel drums, but it's a Hawaiian shaved ice thing. So I got watermelon. It doesn't taste anything like watermelon, but it's cold and it's sticky and it's all over me. So hopefully I'm not going to turn the page of the Bible red. Today we're in Genesis 19. We're in the Net Bible Reader's Edition. And we're going to look at Sodom and Gomorrah. So the last chapter, these three, let's call them men for lack of a better term, came to see Abraham, and they said, yeah, we're going down to Sodom and Gomorrah, and we're going to demolish them because the people there are really, really evil. And Abraham kind of bargained with God, and he's like, oh, yeah, but if you could find, I think he starts with 50 people that are righteous, would you spare the city? And it's like, yeah, we could find that. But Abraham knows that there aren't 50 righteous there, so he keeps bargaining down and down and down. But it never gets to the point where there's really anybody but Lot who's righteous there. And Lot shouldn't be where he is. We're going to see where he is. Where he started was by looking down upon Sodom from up where he set up his camp. If you remember, there was a problem between his herdsmen and Abraham's herdsmen. And so Abraham said, well, you go whatever way you want, and I'll go the other way. And when you're doing what God tells you, it doesn't matter if the other guy picks, because they're going to pick wrong, and you're going to get what you were promised. So he picked the plain that overlooked the Dead Sea, I think it is, in Sodom and Gomorrah. So let's start in chapter 19. The two angels came to Sodom in the evening while Lot was sitting in the city's gateway. So that's where they did all the business, in the gate of the city. Like I say, at least it's cold. It's spilled all over the table down here. So I'm just waiting for a colony of ants to move in. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face toward the ground. And if you remember, when Abraham was sitting there, I think he was like at the entrance of his tent, and he saw these guys and he ran and bowed down. So Lot's not Abraham. He just got up to meet them, and then he bowed down with his face toward the ground. He said, here, my lords, please turn aside to your servant's house. Stay the night and wash your feet. Then you can be on your way early in the morning. So he's assuming that they're there just passing through. They're travelers. But that's their final destination. They'll be making a return trip, but after they're done there. No, they replied, we'll spend the night in the town square. And that was something back then that you could do. Everybody traveled on foot unless you had a camel or something to travel on. and most people didn't. So they traveled on foot. People didn't travel too far. And so wherever you traveled to, people were probably going to know your village and stuff like that. So it was normal, and you're in the desert, so it's not like there's much possibility of rain, that people would just like stay in the town square. You know, if they were in the desert, they would just stay in the desert. So they would stay in the town square. But if you saw them, it was the hospitable thing to do to ask them to stay with you, put a shelter over their house, and to guard them. And we're going to see that there's something that's going to happen in this that you'll be shocked by. But in that culture, it wasn't shocking, because once these guys say, yeah, we'll stay in your house, they're under your protection, and you have to do anything in that culture to keep them safe. So they're saying they're going to stay in the town square, but he urged them persistently. So they turned aside with him and entered his house. He prepared a feast for them, including bread baked without yeast, and they ate. So they had matzah. Before they could lie down to sleep, all the men, both young and old, from every part of the city of Sodom, surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them." So this is a freaky town. Lot went outside to them, shutting the door behind him. He said, "No, my brothers, don't act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never had sexual relations with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do to them whatever you please. Only don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." And that's what I was talking about. I mean, in our culture, that would be shocking to say, yeah, well, here's my 2 daughters. You can have them. Don't do anything to these guys. But, I mean, it was the culture back then. You had to protect them, no matter what. Now, Lot doesn't always make the best decisions. We've seen that in the past, and we're going to see that in the future. "Out of our way," they cried. "This man came to live here as a foreigner," so they're talking about Lot. "And now he dares to judge us. We'll do more harm to you than to them." So they're saying that they were going to, not only were they going to have sex with these guys, they were going to kill them. And they're saying, and we're going to do even worse to you. They kept pressing in on Lot until they were close enough to break down the door. So the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house as they shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, from the youngest to the oldest, with blindness. The men outside were themselves out trying to find the door. The men outside wore themselves out, trying to find the door. Then the 2 visitors said to Lot, "Who else do you have here? Do you have any sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or other relatives in the city? Get them out of this place, because we are about to destroy it. The outcry against this place is so great before the Lord that he has sent us to destroy it." Then Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who were going to marry his daughters. He said, "Quick, get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought that they thought he was ridiculing them. So if all the men of the city, young and old, And they went out of their way to tell you twice. It was all the men of the city, young and old, came to gang rape these two visitors. These two guys were part of that crowd. But they were blind in another way. They couldn't see that what Lot was telling them was the truth. That this is evil and God's going to destroy this place, and you need to come with me. No, old man, we're not coming with you. You don't know anything. You're not the boss of me. Then Lot went out and spoke to his. At dawn, the angels hurried Lot along, saying, "Get going. Take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or else you'll be destroyed when the city is judged." When Lot hesitated, the men grabbed his hand and the hands of his wife and two daughters, because the Lord had compassion on them. They led them away and placed them outside the city. When they had brought them outside, they said, "Run for your lives. Don't look behind you or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be destroyed." So you would think that that's what they would do. But let's see what they do. But Lot said to them, to these two guys, "No, please, Lord, your servant has found favor. If your servant has found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by sparing my life, but I am not able to escape to the mountains, because this disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, this town over here is close enough to escape to, and it's just a little one. Let me go there. It's just a little place, isn't it? And then I'll survive." So they're going to be destroying all the cities here, but he picks out a little one and he goes, "Hey, can I go there?" And he talks them into it. Quite often, God tries to get us out of things, and we go like, "Oh no, but I want to do this," and He'll let you do that. It's not the best thing. We're going to see that Lot. Things turn out weird for Lot. "Very well," he replied. "I will grant this request too, and will not overthrow the town you mentioned. Run there quickly, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there." This incident explains why the town was called Zoar, and Zoar, they think, means little place or little town, something like that. The sun had just risen over the land as Lot reached Zoar. Then the Lord rained down sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah. It was sent down from the sky by the Lord. So he overthrew those cities and all that region, including all the inhabitants of the cities and the vegetation that grew from the ground. But Lot's wife looked back longingly and was turned into a pillar of salt. And there's a pillar of salt in that area near the Dead Sea that's called Lot's wife. I have no idea if it really is Lot's wife. I mean, you don't see a mummified human female at the center of the salt. Pretty cool. Man, this stuff is strong, but it's still cold. Abraham got up early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked out towards Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of that region. As he did so, he saw the smoke rising up from the land like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the region, God honored Abraham's request. He removed Lot from the midst of the destruction when he destroyed the cities Lot had lived in. Lot went up from Zoar with his 2 daughters and settled in the mountains. So he was told to flee to the mountains, and he went, no, I got to go to this little city. So he went to the little city. It was spared, and he went to the mountains anyway. But he wasn't going when he was told to go. Lot went up from Zoar with his 2 daughters and settled in the mountains because he was afraid to live in Zoar. So he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. Later, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man anywhere nearby to have sexual relations with us, according to the way of the world. Come, let's make our father drunk with wine so we can have sexual relations with him and preserve our family line through our father." Now, this sounds really, really horrible. And in today's standard, I mean, it's go to jail horrible. But everybody wanted to preserve their family. And there were, I think it might be called riparian. Oh, levirate rights in these kind of cultures where people would, like if you died, you were a man and you died and you hadn't had any children, and then your next youngest brother would sleep with your wife and produce an offspring for you, and that way they would preserve the whole line of the family. But I mean, this is what happens when you don't do what God tells you. So he's now living in a cave with these 2 daughters, and they're coming up with this cockamamie, scheme when they could just go to another town and meet guys and get married and preserve the line of their father. He can't really preserve it anyway because he has no son. So that night they made their father drunk with wine, and the older daughter came and had sexual relations with her father. But he was not aware that she had sexual relations with him, and then got up. So in the morning, the older daughter said to the younger, "Since I had sexual relations with my father last night, let's make him drunk again tonight." Since it worked so well last night, let's do it again tonight. Then you go and have sexual relations with him so we can preserve our family line through our father. So they made their father drunk that night as well. And the younger one came and had sexual relations with him. But he was not aware that she had sexual relations with him, and then got up. In this way, both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter gave birth to a son and called him Moab. He is the ancestor of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ami. He is the ancestor of the Ammonites of today. And that's in the area of Jordan, across the Dead Sea from Israel. So we will get back to chapter 20 next time, and we will see our buddy Abraham go to the land of Abimelech and do something that we saw him do before. It didn't work the first time, and trust me, it ain't going to work this time. So until then, peace out.